All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our middle level and secondary teaching certification virtual information session. My name is Tom Kresh. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions here at Commonwealth University. I'll be your host for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. There's so many other things you could be doing right now, but you're choosing to spend that time with us to learn more about this program. This will be a great opportunity for you to preview your experience. I know Dr. Roche has a lot. Has really built a tremendous program. And again, this is a good opportunity to get your questions answered. This is a big decision, and we want to make sure we've presented you with the information you need to be able to make an informed decision. This event is being recorded, so again, whether you're watching live or watching a recording, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. But before we go any further, Dr. Roche, would you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Dr. Roche, I'm an associate professor here at Commonwealth. I'm in my 13th year here. I spent 20 years in public education, 14, it was K-12, 14 of them were as a principal administrator in a building at the high school, middle school levels. Came to the university to work in the admin program certification and have shifted into mid-level secondary. And a couple of years ago, took over the program for the post-baccalaureate certification, meaning people who have bachelor's degree who want to come back and get certified to teach in a couple of different pathways for what's called initial level one teacher certification in Pennsylvania.
And Dr. Roche, what is your area of research or any areas of specialty?
So strangely enough, this is in my wheelhouse of my area. I did my last probably publication before COVID, honestly, was, and I'm actually working on one right now, was in my dissertation, the same thing was on staffing concerns really in public schools, attrition and the replacement of staff, teacher induction and retention. And so a lot of the pieces are that we're right now kind of hitting that piece of what I was concerned years ago. My degree is chemistry, and there are not a lot of people that come out to teach chem anymore. So from the STEM side of things, we've been struggling for a lot of years. My piece was the concern that we hit a pretty critical juncture at this moment where we are finding it difficult on the secondary level, 7 to 12, to find qualified certified applicants to fill positions throughout. And our highest need schools really are the ones that are probably struggling the most to get the most qualified applicants and teachers. And so that's sort of my interest level. So a lot of the work I'm doing right now, and so I have a couple things that I'm starting in the works that go along that vein relative to trying to ascertain superintendents emergent and what we see as far as a 5-year out sort of need plan for staffing, as well as kind of putting together some simplistic pathways that are written in a very linear fashion for people who are novice to the idea of certification. How do I come back and get certified to make it a little bit more user-friendly readability for the non-educator? So that's kind of where my interest is. So this is right within that sense.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great segue into the presentation. And I know that again, you talked about the need to be able to have basically to be able to fill staffs, right? And really the program that you're operating here is one of the ways that we would do that. So my first question, Dr. Roche, is why would someone want to go and get their middle level and secondary teaching certification? What opportunities is this going to unlock?
So it's interesting because as we build this, the mid-level is still around, but legislation's pending right now to go to full signature to actually change certification bands. The mid-level may no longer be around, but there's going to have to be something. So I'm not sure how long that cert will stay in play. There are 4 content mid-level certifications you can get to teach grades 4 through 8. Those are really nice and they were really beneficial because the other certification for the early childhood side was a pre-K to 4 grade. And so that 5 and 6 band became really useful for us to have mid-level certified people. The secondary certification in Pennsylvania, the secondary cert actually is what's called it through PDE is a 7 to 12 certification. However, in Pennsylvania, there's another certification protocol, and I think the letters are correctly announced, CSPG, that allows for anybody who has a 7 to 12 cert. You can teach in a middle school in your subject area so long as that's all you're teaching. So for instance, if I'm teaching at Central Columbia Middle School and I have a 7 to 12 social studies cert, I can teach 6th grade social studies if that's all I'm teaching. So that's the nice thing about the secondary cert, the initial side, the initial cert. Also, from a standpoint of staffing purposes, quite honestly, in the secondary areas, the multiple sciences and obviously mathematics, English, and social studies. We do certify in other areas like Spanish as well, which is a K-12 cert. In those areas, there's a much higher need for teachers. So if you're looking to get secondary certification, your employability, a probability of employability is pretty substantially high comparative to that of an early childhood major, quite honestly.
That is great. That is great. Thank you. And I think probably that first bullet point is probably one of the key tenets of the program. Dr. Rose, could you walk us through for students who, this might be their first interaction with the program from a high level? Could you just explain what the program is about?
So the problem with the program, and it's not a problem, is that it's a fairly fluid program. It's competency based. The credits that you see there, 39 credits for our program. Our certification program is approved through PDE. We are one of the few programs that have such a myriad of post-baccalaureate cert programs. So if you're looking for other institutions, I highly recommend that you look at other places. However, ours starts out at 39 credits, and that's for the person that comes into our program that has done nothing in education. You've never had a course, nothing. You haven't had any kind of coursework that would deal with diversity or inclusivity, anything like that. That's 39 credits. Most times when we do a review of transcripts, most students have coursework that meets competencies within our courses, and those credits get reduced to 36, 33 credits. I have students that have been education majors that have gone all the way through up until student teaching, and for whatever reason, they've not student taught and they come back to get certified, and they can do it in as little as 12 credits based on what competencies that they have met. The mid-level cert, there's an extra methods course that needs to be done. That's why that one is at 42 credits, but the programs pretty much align with one another. So we would do a review of what you have in your transcripts. We would do a review of any courses that you've previously taken, et cetera, and those programs. So I have sometimes students that will end up graduating with a different degree, but they decide, you know what, I'm just going to go to math now, and I'm going to get a math degree, a BS in mathematics, and they've already taken a majority of the coursework as an undergrad, and it can be anything. I mean, they can go to any other degree that they've shifted to graduate from the university, and they can come to us, and then we'll look at your transcript. And it's not just a 39 credit program; it is a competency built, but to meet the full slate of competencies, those are built into 39 credits is what happens. 6 of those credits are your student teaching. Student teaching is required by the Department of Education, so that has to be done. And we'll get down later when we talk about the 3 program options that I'm assuming we're going to get to, but the student teaching is a component that has to be done with one caveat where it doesn't have to be done. Do you want me to continue on?
Well, and so Dr. Rose, I know one of my questions in that we hear often from prospective students, so it's basically upwards of 39 credits or upwards of 42
That's right.
credits. And you've talked about the competency-based aspect of this. So it could in theory be a lot less than 39 or 42
Absolutely. Just spoke to somebody today already, took a quick look at their transcripts, and they're at a maximum of 33 credits to complete the program.
Right. All right. So again, you can basically, in really a lot of this, frankly, Dr. Roche, is kind of consultative where you work with the student to kind of basically meet them where they're at almost based
I
on.
do. Absolutely. It's a unique part of what we did. You know, when we talked about this time when we were doing this, we really wanted to make certain that we personalized it and we weren't just a mechanized system where we sent out a robo email. We wanted to make sure. And I talked to about 99% of the applicants before applying. To make sure that they clearly understand the process, because it's pretty convoluted and it's pretty complex. And so having that, the big piece for us is having an advisor and people in a program for certification to know what we really need to do to accomplish, what we can for you to get certified. And we work with districts because they're looking for emergency certified people as well. So
Right. And then that gets us to the course delivery. I know, again, the delivery aspect is going to be delivered online. The course is primarily taught at night through the evening. Could you walk us through what a course might look like?
Yeah, so a majority of our courses, we have a lot of students that actually do the courses completely asynchronous. Asynchronous meaning that there's no live face-to-face meetings on Zoom. There are some classes, exceptionalities. We'll run a couple special ed classes that they may only offer Zoom sessions from 6 to 9, et cetera. And there are classes. So our program, again, and I'm going to kind of backtrack to the previous page a little bit. The second kind of track, so we have a track where you used to have to student teach. And we have a track, when you look at the bottom, the options, we have what's called a teacher intern. And so we have at times teachers that will get an intern certificate or an emergency certificate. And I will talk and work with you individually on that. And when you get an emergency or an intern cert, you'll actually do a full year of teaching while you're getting paid to teach. And that's if a school district hires you. I don't get the job for you. So for instance, I have a teacher right now, math teacher at Mahanoy City, that they are teaching full time as a math teacher with an emergency certificate. They took the praxis, passed it, and they are coming back to get certified. They are doing 2 internships, which means I supervise them monthly to make certain that they're on track as far as competency based, they're able to teach like I would with student teaching. They don't have to student teach. They do 6 credits of internships throughout 1 calendar year. And that calendar year has to go like from August to June or January to January to align with our semesters. And that would basically, quote unquote, count as your student teaching. So that's a pathway that we also provide in all of our certification areas, except for mid-level certs. We are not approved by the Department of Ed for mid-level. All of our secondary and our Spanish is approved for that. So I probably have right now 9 people that are teaching full-time while earning their degree. Most of those people are in, honestly, Spanish and STEM areas. I have 1 social studies person up in Northern Tioga School District, but the majority of my intern people are there. When we do the intern kind of certification, I work with you very closely to make sure that you have the correct emergency type 1 or emergency type 4 or teacher intern cert to make certain that we can then utilize that intern. So it's an option that's really nice for people who are, they need to continue working. So I have somebody who's looking for a job right now. They have a biology degree. Probably by next year, they'll get hired under emergency cert in the local area, and that's how they'll end up working. And there are, trust me, enough positions available for people like that in that intern cert. That's the area that I see is going to grow pretty significantly. And the way we do things here at the university, it's very seamless. And we constantly get feedback. Mr. Kresh says that there are no other programs that are able to really provide this. So that's unique to us. We're able to do that with the delivery. And the reason is our delivery, like you said on the next slide, is that we are completely online. The only time really that you would have to do anything synchronous is to make sure that you get your special education credits in. And we can work around that. We do have avenue. The Department of Ed requires 9 credits of special education and 3 credits of ESL. That is a non-negotiable. You could have taken those as an undergrad. So I'll have students that took all 9 credits as an undergrad and they'll come into our program. They don't have to take them again as a graduate. They've already taken the courses and proven competence in those areas. So we're okay with that. But that's the only time really that there is required synchronous coursework. There is one small other piece. The way our program is structured, when you come into our program, it's unique. We work really well with financial aid because we are a pathway to a certification. Therefore, you can earn financial aid through this if you come into our program. And that's really crucial and key with when you come into a program and you're looking to have financial aid to get through a program like this. What we also do is once you enroll in our program, we have an agreement with a different department where you can actually also simultaneously in a secondary degree enroll in the master's in curriculum instruction. That program requires just an additional 12 credits in order to also earn your master's degree, which is really important for a teacher to do. What we do as well, so that you know, is 3 of those classes, if you don't have comps met, we have 3 classes that align competency-wise pretty well with that we can have you take those master's courses. And instead of taking our courses, and we'll deviate those. So rather than your program being 39 plus 12 credits, your program can really, most people can get out of here with a master's degree in 42 credits and a certification. Some people, again, less. I'm graduating somebody here in a little bit that's going to have 30 credits, master's degree, and cert because they met comps as an undergrad. If any of you are an undergraduate right now, before you schedule, if you have any semesters left, schedule a time just to contact me and talk to me, because if we can get you with any electives you have left, have you take a couple courses that would align with our grad courses, even if you're at a different institution, we can get you kind of competency credit and we can reduce that 39 credit load down even more. Just something kind of unique to consider. And it's something that we do that's a little bit different here at Commonwealth that other people don't.
So, Dr. Roche, I just want to make sure I understand this. So, like, for instance, you may have a student who comes to you with a degree in chemistry, a bachelor's degree in chemistry, not education, just in chemistry. They decide that they want to teach. So they go into the post-baccalaureate certificate program. But it's
Yep.
possible for them to walk away after their experience with you with a certificate to teach and a master's degree in curriculum instruction.
That is correct. Yeah, and most likely, most pretty much anybody can walk away in 42 credits, and many people walk away in less credits. And here's the other unique thing that we do, the way our program runs. Now, I say this to you so that you all know if you're considering coming in the winter or the spring. The way our program runs, you can take 12 credits as a full-time grad student. So when you look at it mathematically and you think to yourself, okay, 36 credits. Let's say I'm at 36 credits is where most people are. As a grad student, you can do this. You can do 12 credits. So if you start with us, even in the winter, and take 3 credits, say, or you start with us in the spring, 12 credits in the spring, 12 credits in the summer, and you're student teaching and taking 2 classes in the fall. We have students that do that all the time. If you start in the fall, it's not as easy for you to student teach. So the best kind of case scenario is start with us in the summer or start with us in the winter. That's if you want to be done in just a couple like terms, like 2 semesters, because it allows us to do that. So if you're considering doing this and you're thinking, I'm going to start next fall, I'm going to finish up, I highly recommend getting some coursework in the summer so that you can get coursework in the summer, get coursework in the fall. And if you need anything else in the winter, you can do that because we offer a good slate of courses in the summer and the winter to help augment that so that people can get through that in one calendar. So everybody that comes in can get through this program basically in one calendar year if they come in at the right time.
Yeah, and I think the combination of, again, your consultative approach of working with each individual student to meet them where they're at, the course delivery being online, asynchronous, and if it is synchronous, it's in the evening. There's so much flexibility that's built into the program, and that gets us into the coursework. Can you walk us through some of the classes that students might be taking to complete the program?
Yeah, so most everybody will take principles and structures unless they took it as an undergrad, and that's pretty much the full-blown comprehensive sort of you're gonna touch base on some of the psychological sort of key elements of learning, developmental theories, as well as coupled with learning theories. Also, that's where you really get your basic tenets of planning, writing course objectives, making sure you understand what are called essential questions, understanding the basic tenets of assessment, understanding curricular development, standards in Pennsylvania, and something called eligible content is where you hit that stuff. Connecting research to classroom practice is essentially educational psychology. This is a course that we sometimes can deviate for with one of the graduate courses based on what you learn in that course, possibly an assessment course, etc. Connecting research also, if you had some adolescent psychology or psychology in the past, you're a social studies person in sociology, most time you've met the basic principles of that course, and sometimes that's a course that we deviate for. Teaching in diverse contexts, if you have any experience in any kind of diverse structures or diversity, that's something also that we can deviate for as well a lot of times. And sometimes students will have, because universities are pretty well adept at making sure that students understand inclusive practices, then there's a good probability that you've met competency work there. And that sometimes is a course that students don't have to take unless they've absolutely had no competency base there. Introduction to Individuals with Disabilities is one of our special education courses required. Classroom Management is a course that deals with some basic ideas of how you run your classroom, effective classroom management, classroom discipline, etc. Content Literacy. The Content Literacy course, that is actually a course that is not required for all, and many times that course is not required to be taken as a component of the coursework. Content literacy is embedded in what are called that one is the methods courses. So the methods courses that you'll take or seminar and ed will cover all the content literacy piece. And really what that is about is what's called reading informational text or reading nonfiction. So if you take, for instance, you take teaching science in secondary schools with me, we actually do reading informational text. We talk about the ideas of BDAs, which are before, during, and after questions, the ideas of how you read for understanding, the ideas of how you translate what you read in order to understanding what you learn, and then also how do you translate that to be a teacher to have students learn how to. So you have to learn then how to teach students how to read informational text. So that course has actually been shifted away, and that's been more embedded actually in the teaching of courses and in the seminar, because you may take the seminar instead of the teaching of. The data-driven interventions with individuals with exceptionalities, that's a special ed course that you would take. Assessment and differentiation, that's a course that will probably deviate for you, or so you'll have met that someplace else, some people. That is really gets into basic tenets of how you effectively assess learning, exams, quizzes, tests, formative, summative assessments, informal assessments, benchmarks, diagnostics, those kinds of things that you'll get into there as well. But we also have what's called a data-driven decisions in secondary schools, or data-driven decisions, which is a course taught in the Ed Lead program that a lot of our students will take that instead of this course because that counts toward the master's degree. So we'll deviate that because those hit the same two kind of elements when you do that. And then the final one, methods of instruction for individuals with exceptionalities. That is the third course you'll take. There is a course that's not on here, which is necessary to take, and that's the ESL, which is English as a second language. So ELLs, that course is another required one by the Department of Ed. But within these competencies and how they align, there is a lot of flexibility in what we do. I will tell you, since we've been running through this program, I would be hard pressed to find a student, and we've run a number through in the last 4 years, and I'd be hard to find a student that we haven't adapted, deviated, and adjusted for accordingly. We really try to personalize what we do where you're concerned. Additionally, you'll do an internship, which is what's called a stage 3 experience, where you'll have to get hours in front of students. That does not look the same as an undergrad. We deviate that, which fits people's schedule. We find ways to make it work. Many times we have students who are substitute teaching in schools, and that's why they've decided to come back. So if they're out substitute teaching, we sometimes can utilize those experiences as a part of the internship in order for you to be able to gain understanding and competencies you would normally meet. And so we'll do that through that process as well. So that's why when we look at what we're trying to do here, we have uniqueness in our program that allows us to actually make sure we provide. And our dean has been exceptional on extenuating circumstances to offer, if we need to, individualized instructions in order to be able to help students meet their timeline goals in order to move forward. And I have a student that actually has requested an exception to take 15 credits this term in order to be able to graduate with their master's degree to be able to start teaching next semester. So we have had some situations where, again, both our graduate dean and the dean of our college have been phenomenal to work with in, working with people with their, specific needs that they might have.
That's great to hear. Great to hear. And then in addition to the coursework, can you walk us through some of the high impact practices that are kind of built into the program?
So you're going to have like a lot of what we try to do on the grad side more so. And so I do teach a number of the courses that you take from the grad side. When we say course embedded projects, we try to make certain that what we're doing is authentically linked to experiences that you're having as possible. So we're not trying to do assignments that sit outside. You are so close and so rapidly going through the pedagogy side. See, our program does not require you to go back and take any coursework in any of your content areas. So if you come to me, I had a person, they have a communication studies degree. They took the praxis in mathematics. Scranton hired them as an emergency cert math teacher. They got certified in mathematics 7 to 12 through the teacher intern process. So when you come to us, proof of your understanding of content is done by you passing the Praxis 2 exam. There's practice questions, and you can purchase a practice packet that allows you to study for those exams and pass those. That's the only exam you need on the grad side. There's no Praxis 1 needed. There's no entrance praxis exam. There's no entrance exams. We like you to have over a 3.0 to come into the program without any exceptions or without any conditions. If you come in under a 3.0, we'll request some conditions, and it may be no more than 9 credits for the first semester you're here, something along those lines. And we do typically keep it at 9 so that financial aid is not impacted for you if we're willing to accept you. And so the course embedded projects, we try to get you linked up with something that where you're working with students so it's as authentic as possible is what we want to. The student teaching is a requirement of the PD, or like I said, unless you do an intern process. And the intern process, again, you can be certified any of 3 ways: what's called a type 1 emergency cert, a type 4 emergency cert, or an intern cert. I can walk you through those, how to do those. You'll go into a system called TIMS, which is TIMS, which is a management system the Department of Ed uses to get that in there. And when you pass the Praxis 2, you meet all the requirements, either and student teaching or the internships. We'll put you through for the certification with our people at the office, certification, our Office of Certification. And that's how you'll end up getting certified. And the applied approach is that, again, we try on the grad side from the post-bac, and what we're doing, we try to really make certain that we go and we sort of hone in focus. So a lot of the changes like content literacy, technology, Intro to Education. Those courses are not required because as a grad student, there's an expectation when you're in a course, like you might be in a dually listed course, like 222 with 522, which is Principles and Structures, and you'll have some higher expectations where you'll meet those other competencies from your intro, from your tech, other places. That's how we've condensed our program. Rather than being like a 54 credit program, we're able to take it down to 39 or less as a result of doing that applied approach to instruction.
Great, great. And then the job outlook. And I know this is something that your area of research has kind of dovetailed with. What does the job outlook look like for people who are entering the field of education at this point?
Anybody secondary, honestly, if you are secondary and if you are mid-level in anything STEM, even English language arts, the one area that has more applicants and doesn't give you almost choice of like a small region where you want to live would be social studies. There are sometimes more applicants in those areas. But I will tell you, if you are in a STEM area, you have a wide open kind of employability outlook. Probably anywhere in Pennsylvania where you want to live within a local area, you're gonna be able to within a year have a position that you want. If you're willing to go anywhere on the secondary side, you can have a job just like that if you want to. Your first job may not be the exact condition where you want to be, but trust me when I tell you, it's much easier to get the dream job from another job. So sometimes you want to take that first position, get that experience and get that stuff out of the way, your mistakes you're going to make, all those kinds of pieces. Your interview will be off the charts better comparatively when you go for that position you want. So sometimes, work in a position to prepare yourself for the true position you want is sometimes the best approach from a job outlook. Social studies people, I say this all the time, two caveats I say. You'll take an ESL course, and if you want to do what's called an ESL add-on, we do have that certification process here, and if you wanted to add on an ESL cert, that will ramp up your employability tenfold with that ESL cert because that allows you to work as an English as a second language teacher. And the only way to get certified in ESL is to already have what's called an initial type 1 certification, which you can get through us in one of those content areas, English language arts, multiple sciences, social studies, etc., mathematics, and then add on that ESL by taking an additional 4 classes, which we offer here, which you can do. That's another thing. It'll take you over with credit-wise, but that's something that you can add on later on as well. Job outlook is really great. I will tell you in the last 3-4 years, I've talked with local people from Central Columbia through Danville to Williamsport. Contracts have gone significantly up as far as salary and compaction to where we have teachers now that if you start teaching today, in 15 years, you're going to be doing even in this area well over $100,000 if you get a master's plus some credits beyond. So you continue on. The job prospectus is really good, and it's just going to get better. I'm just pulling some data together for a paper that I'm looking to write. And right now we are certifying as many emergency certifications in every year that we are regular certifications, particularly in the secondary areas.
Yeah, the
So
fact that the emergency cert programs are so popular in and of itself is proof that, there are way more jobs available than what there are applicants. And there's a
yes,
national teacher shortage. And so this is a program that's there to help, bridge the gap between, qualified applicants and people going into the field.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, if you're looking to do this, again, this is a career path. It's either the now, even the later, but just having the access and the ability to be able to move into this. If you've got the ability to take a semester off to student teach and configure a way to make that work, I would be really surprised if you weren't hired within the next semester, at least filling in a long-term sub position. I will tell you too, it may be out of certification area as well. The person I got off the phone with, they can't find a math teacher to fill a position for long-term sub in a local district. Can't find a certified math teacher. Got an ITA degree. They're going to hire him to teach mathematics, emergency certification, and he's going to come back and get certified with us through the teacher intern process as a result. But that story is more prevalent every day.
Yeah, I always remember you saying that you have school districts that are reaching out to you, being like, "Hey, do you have someone?" Like we've got,
Yes.
and with multiple school districts, it's like, "Hey, do you have anybody?" Well, anything that's even remotely close. So again, the job outlook is honestly it's very positive and it's far more lucrative than what it had been in previous years.
Yes.
So that
Yeah,
is
it is.
great to see. great to see. And then the fun stuff, the application and the admission process. So, Dr. Roche, what are some of the things you're looking for in a qualified applicant?
Honestly, somebody that has a desire to want to be a teacher. We're looking to have people that want to do that, preferably a over 3.0 GPA. My preference is that you talk to me because there are three boxes you check. If you're a Commonwealth graduate, you're not going to pay an application fee. If you talk with me on the phone and you check a box, you're not going to pay an application fee. Rachel Hine, who works with Mr. Crush's office, is really unbelievably amazing to work with. We'll want a statement of the goals, current resume. We'll need some official transcripts. Some of you will be within the university. And then that will allow us to go through the process. I won't sit down with people so that you know unless you have a little bit of a commitment to coming to us. I will tell you that most of the people I talk to come to us. They think they can do it cheaper. I just had somebody come to us from Messiah. He did 27 credits in Messiah, and they kept adding courses on that they didn't say were there. And he finally just spun out of it, and he ended up coming back to us to get certified through us as a result after having done all that other coursework because they kept adding on. I have somebody finishing right now in English language arts in Hazleton. Same thing happened. They started in a program. That program started adding competencies onto their program. They dropped out of the program after a year in it and came back and started from scratch with us. Before you make a commitment to other places, look at other places. It's highly unlikely other places will actually call you back or talk to you. You'll just apply, and then we're finding courses are not available. Our courses are available because we've developed a unique system of doing called dual listing courses and backfilling seats so that we have seats available all the time for people in those programs. So that's what we really need for your application process. You're going to apply for, it's not a master's degree, but you can get the master's. Once you are accepted into the program, you just let me know you want to also work toward the master's, and we will let Tom's office know, and then Rachel will put you into that. If we're too late, then we'll go to the registrar's office, and we'll just simply add you to the master's degree as well. So it's a pretty simplistic application process. Before we're able to verify your certification, I mean, when you go through this process, obviously the last thing is to finish the program itself, but not forgetting that the praxis needs to be done at the conclusion of the program. So, but the application is very, very easy to go through. It is pretty streamlined. And if you have any questions at all, grad admissions is phenomenal with helping, unbelievably phenomenal with helping.
Yeah, so and Dr. Roach, you had mentioned my colleague Rachel, she manages all of our IT, and then our other colleague in grad admissions is Chelsea Dwyer, who's a former teacher.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, we have a awesome team, and we're certainly always happy to help along the way. And I know this is a really important slide here. This is Dr. Roach's contact information, and I can certainly attest to this that again, a big part of this and getting to your destination faster probably starts with contacting Dr. Roche more so than any other grad program we have, because again, every person's path for this program is going to be a little different. And I think that again, the consultative approach here that Dr. Roche provides is outstanding and really advantageous to any students. So if you do have any questions, Dr. Roche is obviously the ideal person to reach out to. I know at this point that concludes our presentation. We have some questions here in the Q&A that we can go ahead and kick off here. Dr. Roche, this evening you mentioned the praxis exams. Are the praxis exams mandatory for entrance into the master's program for mid-level education?
They are not. They're not mandatory for entrance into the program, no.
Okay,
They will be mandatory for you to complete the program in order for you to get certified. You'll still be able to complete our program, but for us to verify certification for you, there has to be a passing praxis score in TIMS in order for us to be able to verify that certification. And it is only a praxis 2, and you would work with Kelly Rodabaugh to make certain you take the correct exam for the certification that you want.
Okay. So I know one of the questions we get often is, the students that are looking at this program have either completed their bachelor's degree or getting pretty close to it. What are some of the differences between bachelor's degree coursework and graduate level coursework?
There is not a lot of difference, quite honestly, in the way our program is developed. It's very similar to the same thing that our undergrads are doing. The only thing that will happen is typically within each course, the graduates will have an additional project that's more aligned with some standards from one of our other courses that we don't make you take in order to meet those competencies. So when you go to a class and you're doing something asynchronous, your professor might say, all right, those of you that are in the grad section 522 also need to complete this other project in order to meet competencies, because that's how we were able to get our program less credits and less courses required than that of the undergraduate. And that's what differentiates the programs essentially.
How do students typically do? Because again, obviously they're coming into the program with an undergraduate degree in a subject, but not in education. What would you say to a student who may be looking at this thinking like, geez, I have a degree in English, in biology. Man, how am I going to do an education course? Like I've never taken any education classes before in my life. How am I going to, transition?
Yeah, I don't mean this in any way other than my chemistry degree is the hardest degree I ever got. So it was more difficult than my doctorate. It was more difficult than the education courses I've taken. The reality is, you keep up on your work and you pay attention. It's more about learning how to be prepared. A lot of the learning is not super high order from a standpoint of what you need to do in a high order sense, but rather just the fact that you need to understand how to engage people in higher order thinking. So it's
Mhm.
not something where you're dealing with content that's going to be stoichiometry where you're balancing equations. It's more about whether or not you're willing to take the time that's necessary to authentically complete assignments to make certain that you demonstrate competence in your ability to plan for instruction, to deliver
Mhm.
instruction, and assess student learning. That's really what it comes down to. So students that come into this that have done decent as an undergrad in multiple areas typically do not struggle at all. They typically do really well. I would say a great majority of our students, save research, EDLD 590, if you're doing the master's work,
Mhm.
they don't struggle at all. In fact, our grads typically kind of thrive in the program. They do very well. That's just my experiences. I mean, it's obvious that the reality is this: if you don't keep up with your work in anything you do, you're going to struggle. But that's going to then translate into what you do as a teacher. As teachers, we don't have the luxury of really showing up ever and having a bad day. We've always got to be prepared every day for everything, because we got people coming in that we have to prepare for. We have people that rely on us on a daily basis.
Mhm.
We don't get to go in the office and just kind of slug through a day per se. And that's not to negate what other people do. It's just that's the whole kind of theme and idea, that you need to just be on top of things and prepared for your work. But from a difficult sense of cognitive sort of challenge, it's not going to be that. You'll run into
Mhm.
some new ideas, themes. You'll have a great deal of new learning, particularly in ESL and special education. But for the most part, we've sat through education. We're sort of defining all the things that teachers have done for us in the past and sort of makes sense. So in the world that we learn, we sort of see that same sort of instruction happening with us, and starts to come more to life, about
Mhm.
how we're learning is how we're teaching, etc.
Sure. So for anyone who is currently working, and I want to make sure I understand this correctly, currently working as an emergency certified teacher right now, who is going through the program, what is the workload like for someone who's already currently, really regardless of what their job is, what's the workload or the work-life balance like if they're, hey, I'm already working and now I'm adding this on top of it. How does that balance typically work out for students?
Are you saying like they're working another job, or they're actually teaching on an emergency cert?
You know what? Could you address both
Yeah, so
circumstances?
if you're working another job, that's a discussion we can have. I have students that are taking 3 credits every term because they're working full
Mhm.
time at Geisinger. So they're taking 3 credits winter, 3 credits spring, 3 credits summer, 3 credits second session summer, and they're just kind of plugging away and progressing through that until they can
Mhm.
make a decision whether they're going to get a full time job as an emergency cert in the intern, or take off and student teach to try to get a teaching job. I have students that right away they come into the program and they say, no, I want to do 6 in the winter. I want to do 12 in the spring. I want to do 12 in the summer. And I want to finish up and student teach with 6 in the fall. So they progress and move through really fast. And they're working full-time jobs because they want to work all the way through the summer, and then they want to student teach. I have students that will, they work after. They work in second shift and they're student teaching. I have one right now. She's student teaching and she's taking an additional 9 credits, and she is working 30 hours a week. She's a phenom. And I just met with her today. She's a student teacher. She's off the charts, unbelievably awesome. So I have people that can do that as well. And so it really kind of, it depends on how it fits your system. There are courses that will talk about research being one of them. If you're finishing your master's degree, that, we don't want you to have too heavy of a load, depending upon what the writing load is going to be for that and the research load. But the rest of the coursework, I have most people that are doing 9 credits to 12 credits per term, and they're working full-time jobs and are able to keep up with the work. It's just a mindset of saying, okay, this is going to be kind of my social. My kid taught me that a long time ago. I have a kid who's a freshman in college, and he said, you can do any of these sort of things, but one of the realities is, are you willing to give up social time in order to achieve the goals you want? And that's sometimes what
Yeah.
happens. He says, so you can't do all the things that you want to do. Sometimes you got to give up either the thing you want to do or the social side of things. And so it's kind of the truth. So,
Yeah, no, that's sage wisdom for sure. Yeah, it's
yep,
again, it's a short-term inconvenience, long-term gain, right? Again,
yep,
you can suffer through that short-term inconvenience because it's a finite amount of time, but what that unlocks is basically a long, fruitful, and lucrative career. Um, so, and I promise that last question, and I'm hitting you with a lot here. So you mentioned
no, you're
earlier
good.
asynchronous classes. Um,
I'm sorry. What's that?
so you mentioned earlier asynchronous classes. Typically, how
Yeah.
did the asynchronous classes run? What software, I guess, what LMS are we using? How for someone who's never taken an asynchronous class, can you help preview that?
Yeah. So when you go to a college or you teach, there's kind of right now there's 3 forms of sort of computer database stuff that you're going to use as a learner, as a teacher. Now, teachers will use other kinds of software that, you'll do things like iReady as you teach, which will be kind of learning software. They'll do like mathematical problems and things. But we have what's called a student information system, which is Banner for us. Student information system is where you kind of do all your scheduling. You have your courses, your grades, and all that stuff are uploaded. Then we have our instructional delivery system where we manage all of our kind of our documents, which is Desire to Learn. We call it Brightspace. So in your course that's online, you'll interact with something called Brightspace. If you've ever done Google Classroom or anything like that, that's sort of similarly to what you would utilize. Some of you are in our university, so those asynchronous courses delivery will be done. And some people will do it through modules. Some people will do it through the syllabus itself. Some people will do it through assignments, but it's really learning how the delivery is done by the individual professor. I do it through assignments, and then I send announcements for what the week is going to be. Some people will do different modules where you have module 1, week 1, module 2, etc., where there's assignments you need to submit, and then they'll link those assignments. It depends upon how fluid that is, or how well prepared they are on the back sides if their syllabus aligns. Always what I tell people is your syllabus is kind of your contract. That's the document that dictates everything that you need to do. So you always refer back to that for your grades, your assignments, and everything, your due dates. But always pay attention to Brightspace. That's where the delivery is done in the Brightspace. When you do something that's going to be synchronous, a synchronous course, that's when we integrate, which would be something which is kind of an interactive delivery system like a Zoom or Microsoft Teams or something along those lines. So those are sort of like when we talk about the tech side of things, that's the delivery piece. The asynchronous, though, kind of depends on what the professor and how they do it, but it's really reaching out and knowing. My whole belief is this, is that the best thing that you can do for yourself is you manage your stuff so that you know that you're always ahead of time, and you pay attention to the professor's office hours. And they should have online office hours that you can zoom into. And if you can't because you have some other obligation, then send emails, follow-up emails. And if you need to go to your advisor, follow up with your advisor, and then follow up with department chairs if they're not responding to you. But ultimately, if you try to do something, you try to gain an understanding, and you give yourself office hour time in order between when you've worked on it and when the assignment is due, that means that the professor ought to be there accessible and available for you. And really, there's no excuse on their part for not getting back to you Sunday night at 9 p.m. So kind of look when you look at an asynchronous class and say, all right, I have an assignment coming up next Friday. I should probably do that on Sunday because I know my professor has office hours Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I can go to the Tuesday office hours. That's something that allows you to make sure you're taking care of yourself to answer any questions that you may have. So they all do them differently, but it's just a matter of, you'll be basically doing your own work assignments. Some of it will be reading assignments, writing from that, discussion threads. Some of it will be just quizzes. Some of it will be projects you need to submit, all those other sorts of things. But that's the asynchronous work that's done in those classes. And most people follow a fairly similar kind of idea of things they do with discussion threads and projects, et cetera, that you submit.
Great. Well, Dr. Roche, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Again, thank you
Oh, no
for,
problem.
yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone who joined us. If you have any other questions for Dr. Roche or myself, please do not hesitate to contact us. We work for you. We're happy to do it. So we look forward to hearing from everybody in the future, and I hope everyone has a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.